Hi, mindset hack for today. We're almost done here in Joshua Tree. Shot tons and tons of footage. I'm super proud because most NLP trainings online. Well, first of all, mastery isn't really offered online anywhere. Not really. Practitioner, I feel it's always been poor quality trainers. For sure, no legitimate certification. I'm actually offering mindset-based coaching certification using NLP, so it's different from the live class. So if you're interested in or earning more certificates as well, but I also wanted to create a training that isn't 3 minutes of rapport and 2 minutes of what's NLP and rushed, just so you can tick the box that you covered it all. Because there's such a wealth of information in NLP that you could create, 12 hours of footage by covering everything for 3 minutes. I didn't want to do that. I actually created a true compendium for both prac and master in great details, lots of background details. So, for which I need in Amsterdam this summer, I'd like to add 2 hours more footage a week. And I'd like to achieve that by giving people demonstrations, particularly on a practitioner level, socially distanced for as long that applies, so maybe even outside. But I need volunteers. I also need a volunteer for the grief pattern really badly. Someone who is kind of stuck in grief and likes to overcome that. That's one. Two, if you master something that relates to brain science or emotional intelligence or personality typing, something that has a scientific backing in some way, and relates to the brain, love to add some of your footage. I will open up that up to the general public so I can give you some marketing as well. I think I have over 3,500 people on newsletters. I have an NLP page with I think close to 20,000 people or something. There's my global page. So there's lots of things going on, and it will be visible over the years to many people. I could even upload it on my YouTube channel, which gets a lot of views, which means in the end, and then it will also be featured in my iPhone app. And so if you have something that you'd like to contribute, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours of training would be really awesome. All right, just PM me. Now, mindset hack for today is one of my favorite things. In fact, it's the very first emotion that I mentioned in class. And I mention it only a few times because I think it's so personal to me. That's probably the reason why I don't mention it a lot. It is personal to me, and it's also tested one of my signature strengths. Whoa. Okay, sorry. Just feel like I sneezed up a part of my brain. So, what is it that I love so much, or what emotion I love so much, and I believe is a true catalyst to any emotion that anyone in the world would mention? Things like other people would say gratitude and joy and happiness and compassion, kindness. For me, mine is a little bit out of the box. I believe it's an engine, it's a fuel for me, and that is the emotion of curiosity. I think that curiosity is often overlooked or forgotten by people and coaches. Where I think it's the, if you want to light your life up, then this is where the initial spark starts. To me, think about it. All real learning. So I'm not talking the forced learning where you pass tests and then forget about it. I mean real learning, the kind of learning that leads to you be able to have results or do something or even achieve mastery. The requirement for that to even start is curiosity. You have to be curious. If you don't give a shit, then also curiosity is required to feel a lot of other positive emotions. There's a lot of scientific research done that curious people also have more gratitude, because they're not focusing a lot of things that are bad in the world. Curious people sort of introspect a lot, like are curious about themselves, like their self-awareness. They're curious about other people, right? And they like to stick themselves into places of new things, novel, trying out new things or trying things out a different way, right? So curious people kind of like to explore, right? And so curious people tend to, in those types of reflections, explorations, tend to bump into things that they're grateful for. And gratitude, as we learned, fuels a host of other positive emotions, creates optimism, a positive outlook on life, makes us live longer, lowers insulin levels inside the body, improves heart health, things like that. But also something like curiosity is also, I believe, the antidote to a lot of things. So there is research done that curious people, people who are curious about others, tend to have better relationships. Yeah, because they are inquisitive and they want to step into your map. But also scientific research has shown that people who are curious, and the type of curiosity where it's about others, that they tend to be less judgmental and less racist. So I personally, not just on that scientific research, but I thought a lot, what's the antidote for Nikki at least? I don't know if that's true for the world. But when I'm judgmental, I slip into that thing. Like I get very judgmental about one thing. I get very judgmental. I get very judgmental when other people are being judgmental. Yeah, and in that judgment, it turns into a negative, right? So somebody else starts judging somebody else, how they lead their lives, and that makes them look bad. So they even say, you are devaluing yourself. Fuck you, where do you get off? That's your map of the world. And if it's then sort of connected to something that's complete bullshit, like charging more money than a heart surgeon for coaching, I'm like, yeah, whatever. You don't get the comment, right? You don't get to judge somebody who doesn't want to charge more than a heart surgeon, and if they don't, they devalue themselves. Get off yourself. Really? Coaching, charging more than a heart surgeon, and if you do that, then you're not valuing yourself. See, like, you can already hear it in my voice. How could I have solved that reaction of mine? By being curious. What motivates that person to feel that you're not valuing yourself unless you charge more or the same as a heart surgeon does? You know, what makes that tick? Wonder what happened in their childhood that relates to money, and I wonder what you know, how truly happy someone can be if that's like the thing that they need to do. You know, my favorite clients actually are people who've never paid me a dime. This is not an invitation, but I donate to teachers who help underprivileged children, and I don't want to have any money for that. And so that is actually where I matter. It's the bank account of purpose and meaning, and it makes me happy. So maybe be curious about that. So curiosity is an antidote. They also discovered something really cool about curiosity. which is that has a big relation to not just gratitude, but also as an opposite of anxiety. In fact, curiosity research is fueled by scientists, or most particularly one scientist, Todd Kashdan, who was an anxiety researcher, social anxiety researcher. And he started to discover that what he initially thought was the opposite to social anxiety, like people that had no social anxiety, were people who were curious. So instead of having social anxiety to go to a party, people would be curious about the party and who would be there and what the experience would be like. So he did some research into that, and it actually was untrue that when people have a high curiosity, it's not true that they don't have anxiety. So that is, I wish that was true, because then there would be like a cure for social anxiety. But what was found is that when people are curious, they are more willing to accept new things, new situations, which makes it easier to adapt and to survive. And that does make, if anxiety, social anxiety or anxiety is present, but curiosity is also present, that creates a much healthier situation and a much more likely time to have a good time. And for that, as a result of that, also that social anxiety to drop and making lasting or good connections and relationships and experiencing positive emotions. So curiosity can turn off this initial impulse of anxiety, if that makes sense. Kind of cool, right? So curiosity, which is also super interesting in terms of scientific research, they found out that one of the first signs of people getting Alzheimer's or dementia is that their curiosity stops. And not just that, it doesn't just stop. They get angry at new things. That pisses them off. Anytime that you like to introduce a change or a different concept or new thing in someone's world who shows initial signs of dementia or Alzheimer's, is really almost an anger response to anything that requires curiosity. Interesting, right? Now, I've been digging for, are there any serious positive interventions around that I know of about curiosity? I know in what book they're contained, and I haven't read that book yet, but I surely am. It's called a book called Curious or Curiosity by Todd Kashdan, which is already now on order for me to read this summer. And where most of my mindset hacks comes from. Oh God, I don't even know how many books I've read on positive psychology at this point. But I can give you something that I think if science were to research it, maybe it's already an intervention that exists, but if science were to research it, I'm pretty sure that it would increase a sense of curiosity. Peak curiosity, okay? And we're going to have the benefits that curiosity has, okay? So I want you to do one out of two things. One, I want you to call someone that you may think you know a lot about, but there's still a lot of things vague about them, like what makes them tick, or why they think their life matters, or what makes them grateful, or how they experienced the last 3 months. Something that is sort of like not superficial. I want you to think about something not superficial about them, or what really lights them up to love their hobby this much. What is it that they enjoy about it? What's their view on parenting, or whatever? What is wisdom to them? And I want you to sit with them and to focus as much as possible your questions around who specifically, what specifically, how specifically. And you're not allowed to tell any stories of your own. You're not allowed to find reasons to interject and insert your wisdom. This is about, all you do is ask questions and they get to answer. That's it. Be curious about their map of the world. Or two, I want you to do a new activity this week. Something novel, something that you have never done before. Or I want you to try doing it in a new way. It could be something simple like, what is it like to cook a dinner with your non-dominant hand, right? It could be trying out something new outside, or a new route to walk and do 10,000 steps. And I want you to pay attention to that novel thing, and scan your body on the inside, how that emotion works. And then ask yourself the question, what are 3 things that are going well, and why? Why is it that novelty lights you up? All right? So, again, the courses online are almost going live. Courses.globalnlptraining.com or courses.forpositive.com. And I'm back here 9 o'clock Los Angeles time, noon Miami, 6 p.m. in Amsterdam, and midnight on Bali. And those are my live NLP training destinations. Tomorrow I'll be back, and I believe it's my birthday, if it's